Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our morning coffee time for Monday, September the 14th. How is everyone this morning? I see the sign that things are sounding and looking clear, which is more than I can say for most of the west coast of America, and in particular, our area here. We've been inundated with profound smoky conditions from all the massive fires burning in Oregon and Washington, California, as well as other places. But I think most of our smoke is coming from Oregon and Washington. And we had very, very smoky last couple of days. But we're surviving, trying not to create extra suffering out of it and trying to be patient with it. And this too shall pass. I just got news this morning that we might be waiting another couple days before it passes much. But quite an amazing set of conditions. I'm sure in a few days we'll return to breathing fresh air and feel a sense of gratitude for a day or two, hopefully a bit longer. Health and well-being like that tends to get taken for granted pretty quickly. So something like this just does remind one how good it is to breathe clearly and have fresh air. I feel like a great deal of the weekend was just taken up trying to think of how to best adjust to everything. Here we don't have central air or air filters in the house, so make sure not to use the vent fans in the house and in the restrooms, and shut down our heat pump water heater, which sucks air into the house, and do our best to keep the air in our huts and in the house as clean as possible, but still have to rely on wearing masks even indoors for periods of time just to minimize some of the toxic effects. So I've had a bit of a sore mouth and a sore throat, like probably many here in the region, for the last couple of days. And a bit of stuffiness. So I apologize to those who have been attending the morning chanting sessions. It's been a bit difficult managing my vocal instrument. On some level, I've been happy at how little suffering I've created over the last sort of 3 days. Haven't really engaged in a lot of negative storytelling or lamentation for things being the way they are. Even had a surprisingly nice day on Saturday. The group that had scheduled to come out and offer our meal and have some Dhamma conversation wisely decided to stay in Portland, as the conditions out here were almost twice as bad as they were in the Portland area. Here specifically in white salmon, it was literally off the charts. The air quality index tops out at about 500, which is extremely hazardous. And there were times that the air meters in our town here were reading close to 900. So I'm not sure if it's doubly hazardous, but it was pretty bad. But even with those numbers, the fact that we had some N95 masks, I was able to go for a walk in the forest and take in the sight of the smoke, which has its own kind of beauty, and the light creates this incredible, warm, diffuse sort of light through the forest. And it was interesting to go for a couple walks in the forest with a full respirator and take some photos and shoot a little bit of video and just notice how the animals and the rest of the environment weathers such things, and feel a sense of gratitude that the wind kind of shut down and our area here immediately wasn't under threat of fire like so many other areas. And then although the group that was coming to offer the meal, most of them made the very sensible choice to stay home. One person gathered up all the food and brought it out here and offered it to the monks so that we didn't go hungry that day, and then stayed, and we had kind of very nice long conversation out on the deck talking about Dhamma. And after it was all done, I remember talking with Ajahn Sudanto and saying, it's surprisingly comfortable out here, isn't it? The air temperature was rather nice, and the masks worked rather well. It's strange to feel comfortable or have some sort of positive experience in the midst of what could be rightfully sort of seen as quite a ecological disaster. It just reminds me the opportunity that exists in growing our ability to skillfully sort of meet the present moment, one breath at a time, one thought at a time, and not create any extra suffering or dukkha, not spinning negative stories, not engaging in woe is me or some sense of lament. Not thinking that it should be otherwise. Ajahn Sudanto at one point asked me sort of what were the cause of these fires, and they seem to be many. Some human stupidity, some maybe due to long-term forest management policies, some due to weather, but the reality is, whatever the causes are, this is the way it is. And really, one of the most central and important questions is, what are you going to do about it? And is it worth creating suffering over? Or is it something that we can be patient with, we can bear, and we can learn how to sort of meet these conditions with skillfulness. Life always could be a lot worse. There's still room for care and concern and gratitude, patience. And just taking life one breath at a time. With no demands that it be anything other than it is. And checking the desire mind that starts longing for change or trying to even generate some wish or hope that it's, I was hoping for a little bit over the weekend that some of the forecasts that the smoke might start abating by Sunday night would come true. And I thought, oh, if that's so, that would be good. But when I read the news this morning that we might be not have any real profound relief until Thursday this week, I thought, well, that's fine too. And it really just is amazing as we grow in patience and learn how to skillfully kind of relate to the present moment. What an incredible refuge. Just dwelling in the present moment, taking life one step at a time, one breath at a time, seeing feelings as feelings, thoughts as thoughts, perceptions as perceptions. How much more manageable life is. And in particular, the challenging and difficult aspects of a life. There really is so much suffering sort of built up in that space that we create outside of the present moment. That projection between what is and what could be, the ideal and the actual, what we have and what we imagine we would like. And even in the midst of tragedy, there is some beauty and humanity. I mean, there has been some real tragedy that people have been experiencing, losing their homes or being driven out of their homes, but also there's all the compassionate response that the rest of humanity makes to try to help ease that pain and meet the need. And even though we don't have any profound needs here, I spent a fair amount of time this weekend fielding calls and emails of concern and offers of help from people all over, friends and supporters from all over. And I was kind of tracking the community in Portland and how people were opening their homes in the Portland area to people that were in need of a place to store some things, or people that were in need of a place to move to should they be evacuated. Looking at most of the names here, I think most of you are in a somewhat similar situations still, facing smoke, or maybe even some of you live closer to the fires than we do. So hopefully this little encouragement to meet the present moment with a sense of patience and skillfulness, refrain from spinning any unskillful stories, and just taking things one breath at a time and exploring the refuge that provides one. Hopefully that's a good reminder to us all. Okay, well, maybe I'll take a few questions, scrolling back to the top, see how everyone's doing today. Eleanor gets the first question in once again. Can you pray to Buddha? How does prayer work in Buddhism? I feel that praying helps us feel less lonely, reassured, etc. But at the same time, if it works, why not do it? For example, smiling helps us feel more happy. So I try to smile more. Not sure if this is a good comparison, though. Well, to deal with the last part, that's a reasonable comparison. And yeah, it's interesting, even if you just push the corners of your mouth up, you can feel it make some sort of change in your mental state. Ajahn Sona is sometimes fond of saying, fake it till you make it. Just go ahead, try to fake being patient, try to fake being happy, try to fake feeling loving kindness. And part of what's going on there is you're not faking it, you're actually sort of stimulating and arousing that. Like the memory of smiling, the memory of being happy, the memory of being kind, the memory of feeling patience is remembered, brought to mind, and evoked in one. And then you can skillfully kind of nurture that and deepen that. And sometimes before long, you're feeling it in a very genuine and profound way. So, although we don't talk much about prayer in early Buddhism, Eleanor, certainly later schools of Buddhism have forms that I think maybe fit more closely to how a Westerner would understand prayer. There's different types of prayer. Often when I hear the word prayer, though, I think of petitionary prayer, where one is petitioning a deity or God or the Buddha or a bodhisattva for some wish, like a wish for all beings to be happy and at ease, a wish for beings to be safe, a wish for ourselves or somebody we care for to be released from some particular challenge or form of suffering. So, petitionary prayer. And in some sense, some of the Brahma Viharas and the practice of those, some of the forms of invoking the Brahma Viharas of metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha is somewhat similar to generating that kind of wish. So as long as I define my terms, I'm comfortable considering that as prayer. Like, I'm wishing in gladness and in safety, may I be well. May I be free from affliction. May I be free from suffering. May I be safe. May I be happy in myself. Like, these are phrases sometimes that are used to kindle and evoke loving kindness towards self and others. May all my family and friends be well. May they be free from affliction, free from aversion, free from suffering. And kind of embedded in the second part of your question about smiling helping, if it works, why not try it? And that sort of fits, relatively well with the conception of right effort. And that's something that Ajahn Chah talked a lot about, was devising your own upaya, or skillful means. Like, learning over time various ways that you can change your mind, or put forth effort for the overcoming of hindrances, the overcoming of defilements, the overcoming of negative, unskillful states of mind, and the generation of positive, skillful states of mind. And I think the reason that forms of prayer survive and are practiced so widely in many human societies is because they do contain something of right effort. They do help people resolve negative emotions and states of mind, worry, anxiety, etc., and establish something more skillful in their mind. And if you find something that works, the Buddha said, make a note of that and make use of that, put that into practice. Okay, well, I appreciate everyone's comments here. I didn't see any questions embedded in much of that, but appreciate everyone's comments. We have one last question from Samrit. I'll take that, and then maybe we'll wrap things up for today. And dear Ajahn, when do metta for others? I think he means when we do metta for others. Does it really help in alleviating their karmic obstacles or suffering, or is it just for our own benefit? Well, Samrit, we can't really eliminate other people's karmic obstacles. Not even the Buddha can do that. So, but we can maybe create favorable conditions for other people, and I don't have any verifiable proof that it works. But this whole notion of something just being for our own benefit strikes me as a little oversimplistic. There's almost nothing that's only for our own benefit. And it's part of the nature of being. So if I can alleviate a little bit of my suffering, and if I can generate thoughts of goodwill and kindness for other beings, it has an effect on other beings. Whether it's received or that it touches the object of that wish of well-being, that wish of kindness, that wish for somebody to have their suffering alleviated, It's not discernible, at least not by me. But I have no doubt that just by establishing those kinds of mind states, other beings do benefit in some way. Even if you just walking down the street and you pass somebody who radiates kindness and ease or something, like they're radiating that out and broadcasting that into the environment, and maybe not in a conscious way, but I think certainly in an unconscious way, beings pick up on that, and it does make a difference. And maybe more importantly, it's nullifying or creating an absence of the tendency to be sending out some negative contribution into those that one's in relationship with or proximity to. And you're strengthening that quality of mind. You're strengthening the muscle of metta or loving kindness so that it's easier and easier to dwell in that place and easier to radiate and share those kinds of emotions with people in the world. So if it's somebody that we have relationship to, you're increasing the likelihood and the chance that next time you're in there in immediate relationship or proximity to them, that you can share that kind of emotional friendliness. Okay, well, I'm going to leave it there. Sharada, I see your question, but maybe you can bring that back another day. So I'm going to try to keep these, especially today. I have a lot on my plate today, so I'm going to try to keep these morning coffee times to a half hour. So wish you all well, and please join me again tomorrow if you can. And until then, take it one breath at a time. Bye for now.